everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Ann, Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Disembodied Beard, John, and whoever else really wants to show up when it comes down to it. Oh no, I have double glasses. Pardon me. Gonna put these back on this table so I remember to take them out of the other room so I don't, look at myself and go, where did my glasses go? Hey, everybody. Oh boy, thank God it's Friday, Tonic. I am with you 127%. What we got here? Hold on, gotta scroll up. You guys been chatting for a while. Ooh, Shadow Raven, I've had a concussion. It's not fun. Sorry about that. I found that some low-key walking helped me a lot when I was concussed, helped me recover faster. I still remember Ed shaking his head at me because I came into work. I would wear sunglasses. I'd wear sunglasses because I couldn't have the bright lights in the paint department, so I'd essentially look out from under my glasses when I had to check a color. He was just like, "You're hardcore." I could have stayed home, but I just didn't want to. But yes, I remember those days. It was a bad enough concussion. It was a minor concussion, but it was bad enough that when I went to the grocery store, I got anxiety attacks from all the colors and crazy, all the different products. I had to stare at the floor in order to go to the grocery store. I could only look up when I neared the aisle where I needed my thing. Oh, Twitch notifications are so dicey anyway, Kodiak. I just do not ever assume that I'm going to get one about anything. Hello, seriously. I'm just scrolling down, just catching up with all the chat. Oh, horse concussion. That's mine was a dog-related concussion, at least. It's a lot less poundage than a horse. Unless you have a miniature horse, then it might be the same. Alrighty, let's get some paint on this. Get some paint on this dude. Let's get this base done so that Ron can eventually have this model. And I've got my turf mix so that we can try to put a little bit of moss on the base. Let's see here. I need... what color do we want these stones to be? This is a good question. Maybe I should have thought about that before I got here. I think I'm going to make them more of a golden stone, actually. Well, he is a vampire, though. He is a vampire. I probably want something more vampire-y, but I don't know that I want something more vampire-y, actually. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with a golden stone. Something in my head wants it. We'll do brown. Maybe we'll do some red in there. Hold on, I have an idea. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll try it. Yeah, maybe that. Maybe we'll do that. We'll see what that looks like. We're going to do some marbling. Oh yeah, Kuro works Fridays, don't they? Or doesn't she? Papa, what are you doing out there? Crazy dog. There's weird noises coming from the other room. Weird noises are grounds for mommy coming out and wrestling you up. What's up? She's like, I'm being very quiet. 1 second. What are you doing? Why? Why must you do this during the stream? You're such a dork. 1 second, everybody. Yeah, I'll trade you. 1 second. just disruptive dog is disruptive. She had the tail end of her bully stick, and she was like throwing it around and pulling it under the carpet and clawing up the carpet and flopping the carpet back down. Yes, Kiki succeeded. Oh, I forgot. Crap. 1 second, I'm gonna join you all. We'll make it a stream event. All right, everybody, go log into your Hilton account if you have one. All right, hold on. I need to sign in. Aha, it recognizes me. Now I need to get to the right city. I wonder, everybody's navigating to Denton, Texas. I wonder what that does to the searchy things. All right, everybody, tell us what dates it is. Is it the 29th through the 1st? Yeah, you can just buy a hotel room, Kodiak. Am I right, guys? 29th through the 1st? Is that the dealio? Or 28th through the 1st, I guess. Let's get there. Let's get there. I'm going to help everybody out. Yes, Labor Day 2021st is September 2nd, so that would be that weekend. Sweet. I'm just looking at what we got here. Oh, hey. Interesting. All right. Limit the available type of room. Got it. Actually, sweet. Okay. We are ready. Uh-oh. I need to grab my credit card. 1 second. I don't want to have to lean on Ron this year, and I want freedom to only teach 2 classes if I'm going to teach. Sweet. Sorry. There we go. And I think I'm good. Yep. Oh. Nope. Wrong thing. Do we have a drum roll yet? I see. It's because I grabbed the wrong credit card. Ah! Alright, I promise we'll get to painting in a second. Seriously? Maybe the world just does not want me to, like, actually, like, book this reservation. Yeah, apparently it doesn't. Alright, well, we're just gonna sit there then. It doesn't want to take my credit card. Alright, well, I guess y'all get the rooms then. There we go. All right. We're good. I actually decided that I would pre-book ahead of the curve. I didn't want to wait. I actually usually buy with my Hilton Honors discount. I just go and use some points to lower the room rate because I have a crap ton of points. Oh, I didn't realize Jason did the Beefolk. That's cool. That's super cool. All right, let's get this. Right, exactly, Inara. That's why I figure I'm just gonna book it. I'm not gonna race for the blocks, but if I wait until after everybody books their block, then the rates go up because there are so few rooms left. So I just decided to, like, preempt it. Yeah, it's still, like, less than, like, it's last year when I went to look at using my Hilton Honors, like, 2 months or a month beforehand, it had gone up to over $500 a night. And I was like, okay, we're not doing that this year. Go, 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 everybody. Go, go, go. This one's pretty wee. He's kind of chunky, though. I mean, for his size. It's not under $200 a night right now. I was over $200 a night when I just booked. All right, everybody go. While I load up my paint in the palette for this base, you all have to run and book. You've got time. I'm not doing anything important. But yeah, I didn't want to lean on Ron again. We pretty much got a hotel room without me, like... Where did my freaking knife go? Gosh darn it! People, I'm telling you. When you need to clean off a pokey tool and your knife has gone running away, or your husband has stolen it, or you ate it. Yeah, I ate it. Conrad's 139. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to take the hit. Because, like I said, like, I don't know if I'm going to be teaching. I don't want to rush for the rooms when they sell out in a minute and miss getting one and then have that FOMO going on. I'd rather just pay. Just pay and offset some of it with my points. I've got about 200k points. I almost could afford to pay for the entire stay on points this year, but I decided not to. By next year, I might be able to get a free hotel for ReaperCon. That'd be nice. Yeah, hubby's teaching, but, you know, normally you have to share a room when only one of you is teaching. I'd just rather book it. too bad, Agent Marvel, because I'm not a pain in the ass, and I'm a Hilton Honors member, and I really have always enjoyed it and been nice to people. I'm sure the few bad apples stick out because that's the human nature, is to remember the bad people and not remember all the good people. But I was always very happy to be a Hilton Honors member. But yeah, it is true that humans will always remember, like, it's just our psyche. It's the way we work. We remember the bad things because in the old days, the bad things could maybe, get us dead if we didn't remember them. Whereas the good things were like, oh, okay, yay, good thing. So our brains don't hang on to that like that. There we go. Sorry, I had to clean off my Poke Tools because they were definitely too thick. They were too thick with paint. Room luck is sold. Yep, that's what I was thinking. Is with my luck, I would have a glitch like I did with my credit card, or whatever, and I'd be doing something wrong, and then I'd have to back out, and then I wouldn't get a room. So instead of giving myself that stress, I decided to just say screw it and pay for the room. Yep. Oh, it's not just the people on this stream, though, Slayer. Remember, it's everybody. All of the peoples. Remember, though, there are other hotels right next to the convention center. Oh, and Ari, yeah. Yeah, this is why I just went in and bought a room. I didn't want to get that horrible feeling that I screwed up. Yeah, I was just like, I don't need that stress this morning. I don't. Today's kind of a mopey day. It's kind of like gray out there, and I'm so happy it's the weekend. So happy. Alright, I'm going to grab my big, fluffy... You know what? Since it's my mixing brush, I'm actually going to trim the end. It's got some flyaway hairs at the end. I'm actually going to take out my scissors and trim those off because it's just my mixing brush, so it can... And when I do use it, like I'm about to use it, I'm going to use it for stippling, big stippling. And that is going to mean that I can trim off. David's teaching. How much he's teaching will be up to him. I think he was talking about 3 classes. I know that I told him he needed to do a couple of his OSL class because, new people always come along and I always recommend that class. So I think he was thinking about doing 2 OSL and 1 of his more advanced highlighting and shading classes. But I don't know, he's thinking about some other stuff too this year. I think he's teaching like 3 at Kubla, so if you're out here in the Bay Area over the Memorial Day weekend, he's teaching at least a few classes at KublaCon this year. I didn't even know you were supposed to tip. Like, I always tip housemaids. Like, housekeeping gets tips. I didn't know about anybody else. I'm going to try this, guys, and see if I like it. Yeah. Yeah, Basil, there's, the way to do it is actually, you need a big pot of water, 2 pots, or a pot and a bowl. 1 pot is full of water that you can put on the stove and heat to near boiling. The other pot is ice water. You want to be able to the pot to be big enough that you can immerse the base long enough that it softens. And then the minute you essentially want to put it in there, grab a tweezers or something that you can use to grab onto the base to hold it in the right position. So After it's boiled, take it out, straighten it, and then dunk it in the ice water. Oh, room attendants, got it. That's the way to do it. Like that's we've written about this. Like the Reaper forums talks about it. Facebook. That's the way to straighten out bent PVC. It's really the only way to straighten out bent PVC, because essentially you're just rewiring the polymers to like fit together the way they should have been molded. Usually when things bend like that, like you say, it's temperature differential in packaging, or they may have gotten like torqued coming out of the mold, something like that. But yeah, that's the way to do it. I'm going to grab the white primer. Actually, I'm going to white prime this base first. Brush on primer time. You betcha. You're welcome. I'm going to try to do some interesting... I think I'm going to put some russet brown in this. So we're going to try we're going to do wet blend stipple kind of marbling type stuff on this base. I'm going to grab... Oh no! That was bad. Alright. Bunch of my binder fluid. My russet brown should be in solution, yet it spat out a bunch of binder when I turned it over in the thingy. Not good, russet brown. Not good. He's got his glowing red eyes. Alright, so let's get that goop out of there. I'm really looking forward to getting my big mini that I ordered from you, Moonlight. I was so excited when I saw that you offered a big one for that one. Belle's my favorite Beauty and the Beast. My favorite, if you must call them Disney princesses, she's my fave, because she actually had a spine and a brain. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Everybody go buy stuff from Moonlight. They deserve it. Oh, was that my outside voice? Buy stuff from Reaper too. Butts. Oh yeah, Shadow Raven is concussed, so their email to you, Moonlight, may be a little bit weird. I think like animal caused concussions are at least the best story concussions. It was always my animal did something, and then the next thing I knew. That was my own dog-related concussion certainly made a good story. Yeah, I really liked the one based on Little Mermaid too, but I had to be budget-minded. Alright. I think I've got this all set now. Now let's get our white primer. Oh, okay. Shadow Raven, you already got a response. That's how cool that is. Maybe I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just thinking about freeform this base, guys. It's gonna be a little weird. Never tried this before, but I feel like I want to do it. So let's see. Let's get our primer shaken up. Remember, you have to shake the primer a lot because it does fall out of solution because the resin's really fine. That's why it sticks so well. And when you want to test it, I usually test it right on top of my bottle. So I will, hold on, we're not at an appropriate focal point. As you can see, I've already got a blob of primer, like dried primer on there. So usually I'll just squeeze a little out. And that's the consistency you want. Nice and creamy. Holds together, no separation visible. That's what you want for white primer, for a brush on primer. Excellent. And then you want to add just a little water because otherwise it will fill in details. It won't be very smooth. You don't need a super thick layer of this stuff. I just don't even notice anymore, Moonlight. One of these days, there'll be a catastrophic explosion, and then you'll see me do my trademark, immediately pick up the bottle and throw it in the water bottle, the water bucket, the water cup. Like, when I have catastrophic fails on models or when I drop them on my palette, like, at this point, it's reflex. The instant it happens, that model gets dumped into the water cup. At that point... Oh, look at that. Woo! Zachariah, are you currying favor? He's fuzzy down here. He's not going to be fuzzy up here, Mama. I just, right now I'm mixing paint, so... Oh, you're bombing a Fort Wapple? No, I haven't heard that story. Did you have an paint explosion? I'm gonna mix up my white primer, guys, and I've actually got a little bit of brown still in my brush, so it's slightly brownish white primer. It's beige white primer, or beige primer, but that's okay. You can mix colors in a white primer, guys, if you want to. If you want to make like a toned, what James Gurney, the master, would call a toned underpainting or base painting, you can do that. Like, he'll use a toned gesso. Oh, fun. Well, good luck, Inara. I hope it's all good. Yeah, it's true, Basil. We do. I have a lot of dots on the top of my, I used to do that all the time because I would carry my paints places that they would be in my caddy upright. So having the dot actually helped quite a bit, as you point out. Oh no, don't grab for the not nice brush. Get it in the water. If you throw... Oh, okay, cool. Today at 12:13 p.m., Ron is going to have a call with the hotel negotiating more room nights. Excellent. Yeah, throw it in the water. Because the minute you throw it in the water, the paint is arrested. It will not dry. The edges won't dry. It is your best chance to save it. And if you're using thinner paint anyway, unless you just put a wash on the model, in which case, okay, you'll have to redo your wash. But it's going to freeze that awful, malfunctioning paint from sticking it all to your model. It's instantly. So then you grab your not nice brush. You get your model out of your paint water jar. You hold it kind of halfway in the jar and you scrub it with the brush. Just clean it all off. And once paint is cured, like it is on this guy, once it's dried, it's not gonna come up. The only exception is if you are working with an original Bones model. Original Bones, I have had one example where if I kept it in the water a long time, the paint would start to loosen. So if you're working with a Pure Bones model, get it in the water, but then pull it out and then scrub it and then put it back in. Just kind of do short rinses with it. Because if the water can get under the paint at any point on the model, I think that's when you get the loosening. It starts to work its way in there. So they could have been saved. Yep. Although dry brushing is actually something that would be hard to save, Mama, because essentially with a dry brush, you're already working with paint that's almost dry. So when you apply it to the model, I would say that your window is tiny and you could not have saved those models. Like, you would have had to notice with the first brush stroke and instantly throw it in the water and then pray. But yeah, with dry brushing, because the paint is not wet at all, it probably cures very fast after you apply it. And once it's down, it's going to be solid. So yeah, once it's dry. So I would say dry brushing can't be fixed. Any more fluid application though, like, and this is where, this technique really isn't for fixing stuff like that. It's more for when you drop your model into your palette and the paint on it, or when you have a paint splooge that hits a model, or accidentally paint splattering across one of your finished models outside on the desk. That's when you grab that model, all those models, you throw them right in the water bucket, right in the water jar. And even if it's just started to dry, it should still be able to come out because you have a very small window. if you're working with really thinned paint, you have a very small window where it may look dry, but it's not solid yet, and you can still scrub it up with a little gentle brushwork. But if you're not thinning your paint, your window actually shrinks because it dries. Once it dries, it's going to be very solid once it starts to dry. So yeah, exactly. Agent Marvel. Twitch be twitching. We're almost there. We just gotta get the back part of this green stuff. I decided since I kept my main base just the same color I wanted to... Since I'm going to be doing a wet blend kind of stipply thing on this base to get some stone patterns, I wanted to have the same general underlying color for everything. All right. Excellent. So I let that dry. I definitely see the difference in texture between the actual sculpted base and my little green stuff base, but the texture is so fine that will be easy to work with. So I'm going to add a bit of water to my one thing here. All right. So the colors that I'm going to play with here, and I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm just going to play with it and see. I'm going to start with 4 colors. And my latest color is that tan. I've got a brown and a red, which is dragon. I think dragon. No, it's deep red. 9002. I wanted a dark red. And then some brown liner for a very dark. And I may need some white. Maybe some blonde hair. Yeah, I'll use a light gold color for the lightest. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be throwing these on, mostly this color, with patches of everything else, all at once. I'm going to do it all at once. I may wish to put down a base coat of my leather brown, just to make sure that I have a solid base color underlying everything. That can be a good idea when you're doing wet blending with MSP. If you're working with a paint line that goes for coverage, this is a technique you can just use those paints without worrying about that. You probably don't need to have an underlying base coat. But if you've thinned them at all, or the paints are naturally thinner at all, you will want to, you're going to want to put down a base probably, just so you don't have to worry about it. It's very high humidity here today, so it's taking a little while for our primer to dry. So while we wait for that primer to dry, I'm going to look at the Beefolk and make sure I've gotten all of our mold lines off of him and stuff like that. Or I guess there's no mold lines because he's a 3D print. A 3DB print? 3DB. There. I just wanted a lighter gold so that blonde hair works. So yeah, while we wait for that primer to dry, let's actually look at this guy and see if there's anything we need to do. All right, I love his little thistle shield. It's really adorable. So he's really cute, and he has a little bit of support stuff down here. What is this thing? Is it a pouch? Yeah. Check the studio model for me, Quindy. And it's baffling me. I know isn't he supposed to have like, maybe, So I'm just scraping lightly with my knife here to take off these little support attachments. You want to do it really light. Oh, okay, he's holding it with his the little bee hands right here. Because he has 6. Okay. Alright, so these are little bee arms. That's fair, I can do that. So yeah, when you get out to the fine point here, you want to be real gentle with your knife. This is, I might be able to file this. I'm not sure. But I don't know that I want to put a lot of pressure on this point. I find I'm more comfortable just taking a real light knife, scrape along the bottom here, be gentle with it. And that should take off your supports. Just be real light. You don't want a very sharp blade for this. I usually keep my blade's usually around a medium. It's not really dull. But it's not super sharp either because that's easy to gouge into things. I use it a lot for cleaning. A little bit of supports here. Kind of looking over some of these fine detail bits. Got a little stinger. He's adorable. There's a little bit of support sticking in there. We got that out. Yeah, the edges of the shield actually have a lot of support, little support nubbins on them. I've always liked using a knife for cleaning. I think that 3D resin, when it's hard enough, is actually a pretty good surface for that. Check my barbarian. He is almost dry. Soon we'll start our wet blending. But I figure this would be a decent use of time. David is playing a new game. It's on Steam. I wish I could remember. It's a sequel game, but apparently the first game wasn't very well received, but the second game is really well received. It's about a world where humans have all died of the plague, and there is a colony of robots, human-shaped robots, and they're like, they've just achieved like what their founders set out to do, which was to create exactly 1,000, and you play the 1,000th robot, and you discover a power source and a weird like structure like that sends like this weird signal, and it's odd because it's a game about robots, but it's got all this Greek it's a puzzle game that's got all this Greek philosophy in it. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me too. I mean, insect wings. Just getting those little bits of nubbins off of there, checking out, making sure we get all this stuff. But it's an interesting game because of the Greek philosophy. Like there's these like avatars of Pandora and Prometheus and a Sphinx that are trying to either help you or hinder you. That come off as like big like AI type things. They're interesting. But I like the Greek philosophy. Wish I could remember the name of it, the game. All right. I told David that the Sphinx was the best, and he had to admit that it was right last night when the Sphinx helped him, but nobody did. Nobody else did. I just have a thing for Sphinxes. Do you guys have a thing for Sphinxes? I love a good Sphinx. One of my books coming up. It'll be a while until I actually write this book. But one of my books coming up has a Sphinx. I couldn't not write a Sphinx when I love Sphinxes so much. You should ask her to teach it. You could use a Beefolk and have a class about it, I bet. Alright, it's just shaving a little bit of these extra supports off the bottom so that we get a nice solid stance on the mini. And we look really clean, look good. Excellent. It's time to paint our base. First we'll put down a layer of our, because I was thinking a golden stone. So now this is very, very saturated, but it's not going to stay that way. Because once I start putting wet blending, I guess I should really pop him onto a block here. Hold on. There. I took him off a block because he was so close to done, but he really needs the block again for this. So we'll see if this comes out a little bit too saturated, or if I can make it work. Just wanted to do something other than Greystone. May backfire on me, because he is so desaturated as a model. But sometimes you just gotta try stuff. If you feel it, try it. I get the absolute last of my medical tests taken care of today. And then we see if any of the tests come up with more stuff that I have to do. I should know by the time I come back from Arizona. I have a follow-up right after I come back. Alright, let that dry. You can still see a little bit of the green stuff through, but in general we've got a uniform layer. It's a little patchy because you only put one coat on, but that's okay. If you're doing an undercoat underneath stuff that you're about to wet blend, you don't have to worry about patchiness. Like, you can just put that one coat down. You don't need to have like a super solid uniform coat under, because you can be wet blending, and the wet blending is going to be your second layer. I'm going to need to look at pictures of bees. Oh, they're so cute. I want photos. There we go. That's a cute one. That's a really cute little bee right there. So adorbs. So adorbs. So around their wings is black or dark brown. And then we've got the bright yellow. This guy's got a little white butt. Guess this guy's got a little white butt too. That's cute. Yeah, I'll have to look at close-ups of the wings, so that I can see if I'm going to texture. They are cute though. Let me see if I can come up with more There are different yellows. Oh, there's a little fuzzy flying one. Boop. They just look like little buzz bombs. Their legs are neat. Cool, cool. Yeah, we'll have fun with this. They're neat. Neato Fritos. I'm not one for like saying insects are cute, but bees get the exception. The bumblebees get the exception. They're so fuzzy. All right. Almost dried. It's not a terrible base color for him, but I'm going to mix it up. However, it's nice because the color that I used to weather out the loincloth actually is a light brown, so his is driftwood. So that actually fits. So as we get this blended and start throwing colors at it, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to get one more color. I think I'm going to want a white or an off-white. Hey Corsair, yeah, long time no see. We're doing the base on our barbarian. Then we're going to start our little tiny bee. He's so adorbs. I think maybe we'll I might use a black indigo for his black parts instead of just straight black. That could be cute. We'll definitely use a bright magenta purple for those thistle tops on his shield. So I kind of feel like black indigo, reddish purple, and yellow. And then some browns, probably. They definitely have some browns on their legs and wings. Yeah, I made my reservation. I just paid for a room instead of waiting for the block. If you got a room, you lucked out, Corsair. A bunch of people on stream here were like, dang it. But yeah, I want the freedom to not have to worry about teaching if I don't feel it. I'm not going to force myself to teach if I don't feel it. The barbarian cute. No, he is not cute. Yeah, you got through. You were prepared. You were not lucky. You were prepared. Actually, my the book I've been reading called Thinking in Bets was talking about that. I'm listening to it on audiobooks. I was listening to it last night while I was working on Kiki's dog blanket that I'm knitting for her, which will take me forever, but I'm kind of actually enjoying the process. It was talking about how hard it is for we as humans to figure out when the feedback we're getting is luck-based versus skill-based. She's, of course, she's a very high-end poker player, the author is, but she's drawing directly, real-life connections, too. Like, if you don't get to work on time, is it because you left late, lack of skill, or is it because you were unlucky hitting every red light? And we have apparently, some are easier to figure out than others, but humans in general have a very hard time. We have a hard time. Sometimes we call things that are really a lack of skill based. We call it, or that are skill based, that we call it luck. And a lot of times when, it's just luck, we call it skill. Like we have a hard time. Humans have a hard time with this. So all right, doing this wet blend. I'm going to be using a crap ton of water on my brush. This is not my usual wet blend. I do actually start with a lot of paint, usually with a wet blend, but not necessarily as much as I'm going to go here. Because what I want is a lot of paint artifacts that give me something to springboard off of for a pattern for the stone. So I've shown this on a video before, moderately successful one I did for the Patreon, but we're just going to play with it. I'm going to bloop, 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 bloop. Now, Bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. See how the paint spreads? Because I've put so much paint on here. That's what we're looking at. Now we do want to blend it a little bit here and there. We'll come in from the edges, around the ends, around the fronts. Drag some of my original color through it. Grab some red. And putting extra water with flow improver in it is going to help this stuff spread out. I'm just putting little dabs of red in here. And I'm going to kind of focus that red around the areas of brown. And I can double down on it if I want. While it's still wet. The reason that I put so very much paint on here is because I want it to stay wet for a while. I want to be able to work with it. So now I'm bringing my lights in. This is a very fast process. You really are trying to put some of your lights right up against your darks. I don't want to like pink out my reds, so I'm going to be cautious about putting my light blonde color really close to the reds, but I want to get some splashes of light in here. But planning is a skill thing, right? Like if you are a good planner, you are essentially setting yourself up to succeed. You can still get unlucky, but planning would be under the whole skillful execution of life thing. So now I'm starting to like grab my leather brown and I'm blending this in a bit. Just a little though. I want touches of color, but when I feel like my red, for example, is too strong, I'm gonna pull it back. And I might add a little bit more dark brown. I don't want the red to be all over the place. I want touches of it. So now it's starting to dry, so I have to be careful. I don't want to pull up areas. And I want to leave some paint artifacts. I want to have some interesting shapes. But yeah, so it's just very interesting because the reason this came up is I'm reading this book as part of my like kind of my homework for my like coaching stuff. Because it's a cool book because it teaches you that instead of thinking purely in terms of success and failure, it's a lot more productive to think about like something in terms of 60% successful instead of just 100% successful or 100% fail. So if you struggle with the concept of failure, getting yourself to start thinking as if every decision you make is a bet, which it really is, if you think about it that way. You're betting that if you make this decision, you get to work on time. You're betting that if you make this decision, your husband or your wife won't be mad at you. You're doing all this sort of thing. You're trying to map your way through your life with maximum success and minimal stress. So it's a very interesting book. But yeah, the first step is to start understanding that everything you do is kind of a gamble. I'm going to leave these bloodstain type things. Yeah, that's exactly what I was aiming for, Corsair. Sorry, I just saw that you said that, but... Right, exactly. But if that player gets really, really down on themselves, it's easy as a human. Again, this goes back to us only thinking or primarily having a memory for the bad stuff, right? I think I'm going to take this and start playing with it. All right, so we've got the front part of this kind of masked out, and I want to, now this is just the beginning. This messy, messy, messy thing we've created is just the beginning. I'm going to transfer some of this stuff over to a different well because I still want to keep my full strength stuff. I do want to line in between these panels of stone. I didn't do the back, but that's okay. We'll get there. Yeah, we tend to be really hard on ourselves, and so part of this book's challenge is just to stop thinking that way, to stop like blaming ourselves for less than ideal results because we've gotten caught up on that 100%, right? It's the same kind of thing that I tell you guys when it's like you feel bad because you haven't painted, for ages, but then it turns out that you actually did sit down and paint for 10 minutes here or there, but you're not counting that because it doesn't really count, right? But it does count. That's the thing. You sat down, you worked on a model, you painted, or maybe you just cleaned a model, but that's okay. You had fun with your hobby. Especially when we spend a lot of time watching, a lot of us will spend a lot of time watching how-tos like this stream, right? For inspiration or for just because we don't have the time to actually, a lot of the times, if we don't have the time to actually execute on our hobby, watching streams like this feels like it makes us feel better, right? It makes us feel like we've engaged with our hobby. But in reality, even if you just get out, a new model and kind of clean a couple parts of it, clean it, mold lines off, or, do some green work, that all counts. It doesn't matter if it's 5 or 10 minutes when you wish you could have, spent an hour. It doesn't matter. It's not all or nothing. It's like last night, I really wanted to sit down and knit for an hour, but I had to finish cleaning out the fridge and re-adding stuff to it. And I had to do, there's just cleaning stuff fall out from all of that. And I had CrossFit, so I didn't get home until later. So I ended up doing only one row on Kiki's dog blanket part that I'm working on right now. But I was actually happy because at least I sat down and I did that one row. So sometimes you got to cut yourself some slack is the point here. And this book is pretty good for that. I'm going to thin this liner just a little bit more. And I may want to glaze. And then I might glaze at the end. So when I'm working with a really messy startup like this whole thing, what I'm looking to do is to create kind of a semi-marbled effect. And the point of doing this really chaotic, haphazard stippling in the beginning with super wet paint that flows unpredictably is to give myself artifacts that then I can use, that I can work from to create a more marbled effect. Because if we try to do this manually, it's not going to give us something that looks natural because humans, we tend to like patterns and subconsciously we'll reach to make a pattern more predictable than it should be if it was part of nature. So I'm going to start putting in these lines. This will help to segment out my stones. They're probably separate tiles, so they're gonna not have their colors aren't necessarily going to connect. Right, I don't want them to actually a pattern on one to carry over perfectly to the next. Oh, got a little bit of wet paint there. That's okay. But yeah, the red will kind of blend in a little more as it dries. You see it's starting, but it still looks like blood stains, and so I still like it. I thought about doing a blood stain pattern on his axe, but I decided I wanted him to be going out fresh to battle instead of being just emerging from it, because I didn't want to put blood splatters over the whole thing. Yep, that's resistance. That's pure resistance, Turgeon. And the first step to conquering resistance is to stop and sit with yourself and really understand what you're doing. And usually resistance pops up when you have made your next step. Either your next step is unclear or it's too hard. So sitting down and actually, deciding to work on a particular model and then deciding that the easiest possible step that you can take. I know you mentioned that you had a lot of very, very ambitious models that you'd been, like that diorama thing that you from Lord of the Print. Those are huge projects. And if you look at an entire model from that, it's going to overwhelm you in 2 flat seconds, if not faster. So the way to get around that, the way to get away from that, is to ask yourself, what's the easiest thing I could do? And then do that. And actually using this stream to distract you while you do that, to take more of the pressure off. That way you get the best of both worlds. You get to be watching the stream and painting, right? You can listen to the chat, you can, participate, but you also might get, part of that model cleaned. But it's imperative when you have resistance to break it down to the easiest thing you can possibly do. Right. First step, clean the table. That's easy. What's your next step? Find maybe a tray to put your stuff on so that you can easily put your stuff on the table or take it off. That's what my next step would be. After cleaning the table, it would be like, all right, I need a lunch tray or something like that to put my stuff on so that it's super easy for me to move my stuff to and from the table. And so I might order a lunch tray, and in the meantime, I might grab a big, thick piece of a cardboard or a box I've broken down. Next step, get out all your supplies. Here's your palette. Here's your empty water cup. Here are your knives, maybe, if you're just going to clean something. Your files. Put all those on the cardboard. Then you can easily carry the cardboard to the table and put it down. Now you have a work area. And because you've got a big cardboard thing or a tray, it's actually going to protect the table also. So you get 2 things for the price of 1. Ah, yeah. See? Derek is working with his procrastination right now. Yeah, because this is why when I was working on a project I really hated, I would put on Lord of the Rings, or I would put on Tomb Raider, or I would put on one of the movies that I loved the soundtrack to, that I knew by heart, and just having that movie there with me helped me to work through the procrastination, because it was enough of a distraction that it had helped me to work without having to concentrate too much on what I was doing. It was just distracting enough. Sometimes you need that pressure valve to be taken off. Yeah, everybody does the whole eat an elephant one thing at a time, but I always feel like that's too generalistic, and it's, for me, that wasn't like, although it was like, oh, okay, but I wasn't able to actually use that actionably. For me, what made sense was lowering the bar until it's easy to step over. So, because eating an elephant one bite at a time doesn't really tell you how much of a bite you're supposed to take. But lowering the bar until you can step over it easily does tell you it's supposed to be something you can easily do. Really easily do. With the writing stuff and the Better Faster Academy, what Becca usually does is she's like, okay, can you write the next sentence? If you stop and you think about where you are in your story, can you write the next sentence? That's the easiest little step. If you can't write the next sentence, then there's a reason you're blocked and you got to figure out what it is. Maybe you don't know enough. Maybe you haven't thought enough about the characters' personalities and why they're here. Maybe you're trying to describe a room and you haven't really thought about it, right? That kind of thing. But if you can write the next sentence, then it's pure resistance. And you got to tell yourself to just open the manuscript. That's your first thing, right? In my case, with you guys, it's, okay, clean off the table. Find a tray or a box. Get your pieces out, right? Set up your area. Even, honestly, having that, like if you order one of those cheap plastic lunch trays, or get one, get old ones from your local school, or whatever you do. The dollar store used to have them, but now the dollar store is kind of defunct in many areas. So I don't know if they still do or have. But like just setting up like a tray of some sort. Heck, if you've got a 3D printer, print one. Setting up a tray of some sort with your basic tools on it so that you can instantly take that setup and just put it on the table and you are ready. That removes so much resistance. Oh, delivery on the way. Bye, Turgeon. Yeah, that's for sure, Corsair. Taking a throwaway mini and just like doing some basic stuff on that. Of course, the way I ended up going away from that eventually because I found that I did better work on the throwaway mini, then I would get frustrated. Although it kind of makes the point that the less stressed you are, the better results you might get. So we're just getting those lines mapped in here to break up our surface. I've got a little bit too much red, and I'm going to be minimizing that red a bit. Breaking up each stone also gives me kind of a point to look at where am I on this rock? Does it need a little bit more X or Y? Like looking at each stone kind of in isolation. Some stones are really light colored, some are really dark, some need a little bit more variation. Yeah, a cigar box or whatever. I mean, I like a little bit of a bigger thing. I like something that's at least, 9 by 11 or 9 by 12. I've even used the cardboard that came like as the backer of a calendar for Christmas. Like it was thick enough to put my stuff on. But usually these days that cardboard is not that thick. So at Reaper I had lunch trays, and I probably still have one of those black lunch trays around here somewhere. But since I have a dedicated work area here, I don't need it as much. All right, so now I'm going to thin down my paint a bit. I really want to look at my leather brown is the medium, so I'm going to kind of look through. I'm going to get that leather brown, stipple it in a few places that I want to lighten up. Break up some of these big shadow areas just a little. I'm going to grab... And I may still wet blend for some of this. Or I may just kind of like take my light and put it in. Or I may do that and then wet blend. But I'm looking to break up some of the stuff that maybe is a little bit too predictable or hard-edged. Make everything kind of come out more. I want to minimize my reds a little. So I'm going to take my leather brown, bring it in, bring it over. I may also glaze at the end, take that a little bit out. Maybe you do. Maybe it is giant stogies. I'll just imagine that. I'll imagine you, Mama, just chomping on this gigantic stogie next time you're painting. But yeah, it also depends on your goal, right? If your goal is just to get models done, it doesn't matter what you work on. Or if your goal is to learn a new technique, that doesn't matter what model you're working on. For me, my goal was always to improve. But that's not, that's probably my little bit of competitive urge. Although it's other things in me as well. There's other personality traits that I just like to learn. I like to execute. In art, my goal has always been to produce just work that I can be proud of. Work that I enjoy looking at. That has always been goal number one. For a while there, I got very burned out because I was more concerned about, what other people thought of my work. And I let that become a very large motivator for me, which is fine. It got me, it got me to competitions, I guess. But it wasn't like there can come a time when that attitude can bite you. So I got to a point in my life where I was like, okay, competitive urge is great and all, but I don't, that's not really a reflection of what I've always wanted, which is just to produce something that makes me happy, right? And yeah, am I kind of, do I have that perfectionist urge, and does the stuff that makes me happy usually have to be of a certain level? Yeah, that's for sure. But like Anubis, who you all have, most of you have seen on my stream, he's not to my top level, but I'm very happy with him. Like, I did on him what I wanted to do, and I didn't go to the nines on everything, but I'm still happy with him. Anubis is kind of my model to show myself, like, that I can just do non-competition work and still be happy with it. Where for a while, I'm like, if it wasn't competition work, I thought I wouldn't be happy. But I have proven to myself now that I don't need to go all out on something that I want to paint. I don't have to take 80 hours. I can take 30 and be happy. One second, he's big. He's very big. He's a model that David bought me for a present. Oh yeah, David is super faster than me, mama. Like, he's so fast. David is so freaking fast. No, this is Hera models. They did an Egyptian series. This guy has alternate heads. Like, you can paint him up just as an undead, like, priest of Anubis, but I wanted the Anubis heads, so. But I mean, a lot of this is kind of like fast for me. A lot of the stuff on this model is fast. Very fast work. But some of it's painstaking. Like, I took extra time on the feathers. Right? But the feathers are also a lot of wet blending underneath. So I took a lot of time on the bone, but, there's other parts that are very fast on this model. And I still like it. Like, I'll still be happy to put it in the case. I like how he turned out. But I mean, like, clothier, just wet blended. Super fast. This stuff's all pretty wet blended. I did go back in and layer a little bit. But there's parts of this model that are very, very quick. They're very not Anne. They're very not competition Anne. But I'm still happy with him. And that's, like, the most important thing for me right now. But that's like, it used to be my main goal, and then everything got all kind of weird when I started doing this for a living, right? And competition and all that. Yeah. And when you've got a competitive mindset or a learner mindset or any mindset that's like, where your motivation is to get better, you can get in a trap like that where it's like, if you can drive yourself to the point where it's no longer fun, right? So now I'm coming in and I can show you guys this a little bit closer. So see where, let me bring this down now since Anubis has gone away. I'm just bringing in more light veins around here. So kind of I'm mixing my leather brown and my blonde color together. And I'm using the patterns I already have, like around this little dark projection here. I'm using the patterns I already have to create more stony patterns. And usually it's stippling, really light stippling. I've thinned my paint a little bit. I do want the edges probably to be a little lighter, but I'll come back around to that. So as I start to do that, I start to get more of just a kind of randomized, see this kind of pattern. Yeah. I think a lot of it for me was just at some point, like the award-winning mini painter was like who I became, right? And then when you've got that in your head, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, right? And I have always been one of those people who put more pressure on myself than anyone else could. So getting away from that, like, I was kind of thinking about this the other day. I'm like, could I push harder to keep my reputation out there? Could I do more things? Could I put myself out there in different ways? Sure, I could. But would it drive me absolutely insane? Yes. So bringing in just some light streaks here and some little bits of like almost marble type veining. Like, I've started reading that biography of Michael Jordan I picked up. And like his competition, his competitiveness drove him so extremely. And like I don't have that high of a competitive nature, but I do have one. And so I see that, like how certain aspects of your personality can really get out of control and maybe take you away from like a path that might make you happier. So it's always a question with me because this is my living, right? It's like, well, maybe I should be trying a little harder to spread the word about my stuff. Maybe I should do more social media or more X or more Y. But when it comes down to it, you need to like make choices that are in harmony with yourself. So I always question myself if I find myself like thinking like maybe I should do X or I should do Y. It's like should is a very loaded term. Really the thing with texture is like you want to, in order to do good texture, Slayer, you got to be comfortable with thinning your paint at least a little. If you're trying to fine texture, you gotta, for here I'm trying not to overwhelm, so I thinned my paint so it was more translucent. Or you've got to be willing to glaze. There's different ways to go about it, but texture usually uses paint that is thinned, it's not thinned as much as layering. It is a form of layering. You're putting wet over dry, but it's like you're leaving brush strokes, and those brush strokes are your texture. And for anything other than like stone and things like that, I would be less haphazard, right? Because certain textures like cloth, those are predictable, and they've got a definite pattern to them, whereas stone, the patterns are all just how it was cut and how the grain formed, and so stone, you're very much more natural, more freeform. Stone is different. But yeah, so it comes back to like your motivation, and sometimes you need to retouch base with your motivation for painting or whatever you do, sculpting, for those of people out there who might be watching like Derek and Moonlight. Sometimes it helps to, if you start to feel disconnected or lack of motivation, it helps to go back and revisit why. What's your why? Why did you take this up in the first place? Have you gotten away from that, and is that the problem? Like for me in my writing, I had to go back and really look at it and realize I was treating it like a business, but it's not a business for me yet. Like it doesn't have to be. Like, I'm not in a hurry. I'm just going to write books. And I have faith in my writing that eventually I'll get a decent audience for those books just by continuing to write them and doing, the advertising I do. Maybe I'll add some more advertising in over time, but I don't have to feel pressured to do it. Like, with painting, when it's not a business thing, then your struggles are probably more about just your own like resistance to like afraid that you're going to fail. It's probably a lot of fear of failure. That's a very, very frequent malady. But nobody has to care about what you do except for you. Like, if you have some judgmental person you show your stuff to and they make you feel like you're not really doing very well, stop showing your stuff to that person. All right, I'm going to get the edge here. I'm going to be doing a kind of a mix of the russet brown and the brown liner just to give it kind of a warm, dark shadow on the edge here. That's not entirely true, Slayer. I think that's a myth, and it's true for some people and not true for others. You can love the work all you want, but it doesn't necessarily make you write better. But then writing has this kind of odd thing, and I would think the parallel in mini painting is so something like what David does, and something actually like this base. So your rough draft or your rough pattern, you're just going through and you're slobbering it all on. When you spew a story out in your rough draft, you gotta, like, okay, you don't have to. Some people don't. Some people sit there and pick apart every sentence right after they write it. But for me, I have to just let it go. I have to just let it get out there. It has to be on the page. Then I come back with my detail brush and my editor brain, and I refine and I make it better. I correct it, I tweak it, I do that kind of thing. So the thing that treating it like a business does is it makes me focus on putting out the best product I can, right? Which to me is important. But I don't know, like, I think that I personally have done just as good a job on a miniature that I didn't like and didn't enjoy painting as I have on a miniature that I loved. So for me, the love of it, yeah, right, is negotiable, right? Did I enjoy painting the one that I loved a little bit more? Yeah, sure. But did I do a better job? Not really. Writers talk about this. They're like, sometimes the words just like jump out of you and onto the page, and sometimes you just struggle with a chapter. And again, those writers have found, and myself, that when someone reads your book, they can't tell the difference between those parts. They can't tell where you sat and struggled and really didn't love the words and where the words just flowed. So the thing that I have found recently when I kind of dissected my whole treating it like a business thing is the difference with me is if I'm treating it like a business, I stress out more. There's more resistance, there's more procrastination, there's more stress because I'm putting so many high demands on it because it's a business, right? It's my business. So I had to take a step back there and say, wait a minute, no, not really. The Patreon is my business. This stream is my business. My Twitch, that brings in a little money, isn't really my business. Like, that's why I don't really guilt myself over canceling a weekend Twitch stream. Because although it brings in a little bit of money, it's a very little bit of money. So Twitch is not my main business. But the Patreon, I'm deadly serious about. It's a very rare month when I'm a day late on the last content in my Patreon. And usually what will have happened is just some unforeseeable crap earlier in the month that messed up my timeline. There we go. So now we've got our things outlined. Now I'm going to continue kind of working with this. I want to bring in a little bit more light on the front parts of these cobbles. And I want to outline more of these stones to make them... You see how I'm outlining the edges here? And it's making it come out a little bit better. I want to do that back here and in here where I haven't done it. Yeah, Corsair, have a good one. Oh, is it quarter after already? Yeah. But yeah, so I guess for me, the whole treating it like a business thing is more that it makes me put extra pressure on myself because it's my business. Because I'm freelance, right? I don't have a quote unquote real job. I'm not working for anybody but me except for this Reaper stream. I had to split early a couple times this week, so I don't mind going a little late today. Papa's asleep, so. But yeah, so for me, I realized that it was very loaded to start thinking about some of this stuff as my business, because then I start to demand things of myself, put a lot of extra stress on myself, a lot of extra strain. And it's not necessary. Like, the book will get done eventually. It'll get done a lot faster than my first 2 books did. That took me, over a decade to futz around with. But, is it a world killer if I don't get it done, in the next month? No, it's not. There. So edging those stones helps to bring everything out. Yeah. But work-life balance is loaded. Like, because, right, sometimes people can just enjoy working. Like, their work-life balance is balanced toward work. And they're fine with that, right? I work a lot. Like, David always says, he's like, David would be my champion if anybody on earth ever said I was lazy. Because he sees how hard I work. But yeah, work-life balance is different for everybody. It is what you say. It's the balance that you need, a balance that keeps you from being burned out. But I mean, if you're happy and you're sleeping well and you're not, parts of your life aren't getting neglected, your work-life balance is probably fine, even if you work a lot. Some people just like to work. It's me and Kiki. Kiki is back to walks, and then this weekend she gets to, if we find some dogs for her to play with, she gets to play. She is out of house arrest, Pendergast. We're very happy about it. So is she. It's nice to be back and getting our steps. But yeah, it just can be a thing, right? It can be a thing. Anybody out there who's watching the stream who mini paints for a living, always kind of be evaluating your mental on that. Just if you're starting to feel stressed out, burned out, it might not actually be the amount of time that you're working. It might actually kind of just be the demands you're holding yourself to, the standards you're holding yourself to. So we're bringing a little bit of extra light here along with those randomized patterns. Again, I'm using these random patterns to suggest where to break them up and what to emphasize. But yeah, it's rough, right? Yeah. Right, and that's why I don't like those books on work-life balance. Like, I have read a couple or listened to a couple, and they make a lot of assumptions about the way you work, right? Because they are trying to help you based on what that person does, but that person might not be wired like you. So yeah, so it's always good to look into those things if you are feeling stressed out, drained, burned out. Like, burnout is real, and it's, for sure everybody fights with that at some point, I think. Whether it's emotional burnout, job burnout, learning burnout if you're a college student. I'm going to dull down that bright spot right back there. There, it's a little better. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, seeking approval, like, you should seek your own approval first. Is what I've found. Then, it's okay to be happy. I mean, I'm super happy when I do a good job. If I bring a model to Adepticon and a painter I respect really likes my work and speaks up about it, that makes me super happy. Like, that honestly makes it for me. I don't care if I win the competition or not at that point. If Ben comments as like, I saw your entry and I just love it, You know, I'm all over that. I'm like, all right, I'm here for this. That makes it all worth it. But like to hang my happiness on that sort of thing, that's where I realized I needed to back off. Like, if I'm happy with the piece, because there are plenty of people out there who will look at your piece and be like, oh, maybe it would have been better if you did X, right? And they don't mean anything by it. They're trying to give you feedback, right? But for me, back in the day, that sort of thing could be a joy killer. Like, it would absolutely bring me down. I could be very happy with a model, have somebody pull that out, and I would instantly feel down. There we go. So we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Let's do a glaze over this. Let's do a quick edge on this one and then do a glaze and see where we're at. Yeah, at this point, I go, and if I'm happy, I bring the model, you know, I enter the model. If at that point, if somebody else, I'm to the point, I've evolved enough that if somebody does pull that out on me, like does pull out the whole, oh, I think it would have been better if you did X, I don't know about this part, I will just smile at them and go, I really love it. I'm very happy with it. And they're usually like kind of taken aback, and then they're just like, you know, oh, well, cool. Because I've just learned that I'm the only person that needs to be happy about my work at this point. Like, it took me a long time to get here. It took me a long time to get to that point. But I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to share it with everybody. I don't need feedback. Not really looking for it. You can give me feedback if you want. Maybe I'll remember it for another model sometime in the future. It's always, you know, nice to get feedback. But I'm not going to let it, it's not going to like bring me down ever again. My blue werewolf days are over, guys. All right, so we've got some edging. We've got these things standing out. The stones are standing out nicely. I'm going to back out because we've been staring at this. That actually looks pretty cool. It's different, but now I want to make it a little more uniform. Yeah, these days I'm very much asking people. I'm always going to ask, do you want feedback, right? So I'm going to make this base a little bit lighter, guys. I'm going to mix some leather brown. Here, I'll show you the glaze. And then we'll call the stream. Leather brown with a little bit of white in it. Kind of bleach it out a little. Here we go. Pop a bunch of water in it. Boom. The blue werewolf story, yes. I was so upset at the time because I was really happy and proud with that model. And I kept him. He was my avatar in the Reaper forums. He might still be. Wolfie is still like the grumpy werewolf is very much my soul, guys. Yeah, so I recovered, but it was a lesson. It was a lesson for sure. All right, so we're going to take this and we're going to put it over the entire thing. We're going to glaze. We're going to try to kind of follow along with the, like I'm going to stop when I hit the edges of some of these stones. So I'm going to try to keep my glaze contained. That way, parts that I haven't touched yet aren't going to get touched by this. I'm going to use a big brush. This is my number 2 Winsor & Newton, so it's huge. And I'm going to slobber that all over the thing. You also could use much less glaze and just glaze stone by stone. But on this one, I think I want to cover everything. So I'm going to pop all of this all back here. Boom, boom, boom. Even in the cracks that I shaded, by the way. And then I'm going to rinse it out. Pull all the water out of it. Yeah, and these days I'm not shy about telling people, you know, I'm up for feedback if you're supportive and encouraging, right? I need supportive, encouraging feedback right now. If I'm in a like a kind of depressed mood, like if I'm down, I definitely don't want to, like I don't have as many defense mechanisms to protect me when people might be down on my model. So I'm going in and I'm not shy about kind of putting my brush in there to slurp out some of that color. It's wet enough now that I can get away with it. Once it starts to dry, It's going to be dangerous, but right now it's still wet. And I'm not pulling it all out. There's still a fog in there. See how it kind of fogged these lines. And now I'm going to pull it out from around the feet. Don't want my glaze to dry weird. Got a little bit extra in here. Going to flatten my brush out and just pluck it out. As it dries or gets lighter, it's more likely that we're going to pull that out. But see how I've gotten that fog now? And now look at how integrated everything looks. I have to go back here and slurp some of this stuff out. There we go. But now look at how this base pulls together. Before it looked like a mess, right? Everything was very different. Now with that glaze over the top, suddenly it's as if you've put like a film or a filter over the whole thing and everything pulls together. Glazing is magic. So when you have anything, and this is a trick you can use also if you've done cracks in stonework and you want them to not look like you've just painted black lines across something, that's how you do this. Thanks, Shadowraven. I appreciate that. I try. As somebody who used to have a lot of trouble taking feedback myself, I know how hard it can be to take. So yeah, so remember what we started with, and now what we ended with. See how much more muted this is? So now it suits the model. I've still got a bunch of different colors on it, but it suits the model and it doesn't overpower the model. And that's why I glazed with a lighter version of my base. Why I took that base color, this red, this leather brown, and I added white to it, because that automatically mutes it out, pulls it back. Light glazes can be hard to do, because brush strokes will show up very fast. And that's why I decided not to do it stone by stone. I just put a whole bunch on. When you put a lot of glaze on, you have a lot of time to go and just kind of slurp it out. And that's why I'm using a big brush too, because it has a lot of fluid capacity. So it's able to pull off all of that extra fluid. But now we've got a warmer stone base that's still, still comes off as muted, doesn't fight with the model. And it still has some interesting patterns on it. And if I want to double down on those bloodstains, I can take my red and do little tiny bits of glazing just to brighten them a little bit. Otherwise, they look very faded, right? Which is cool on its own. So I'll have to do it again to the back of the model. But yeah, I think that's fairly successful. And then I got to decide if I'm going to have any... I might just actually be fine like this. I was going to put maybe some moss or something, but now I don't think it really suits the base. So there we go, guys. A different way to do stonework. And we did it all in one stream. And we went really long, but like I said, I had to truncate streams so often in the last week thanks to medical crap. I'm pretty okay with going along with one. But yeah, so I'll use black paint and I'll trim up the edges. And then we'll finish the back. But yeah, so that's how you do it. It's one way to do it. I really love doing this kind of thing. I think it gives me a very organic look, and it's very different. So, and we didn't get to B except for cleaning up B, but that's fine. That's fine. We'll get to B. All right, people. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me replace my paints in their various places. Y'all can let me know if you have any questions for this last minute while I'm cleaning some of this crap up. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for hanging out, everybody. I appreciate it. And I will be streaming tomorrow. I will be probably still working. I think I'm going to work on Moonlight Barbarian Lady. She's really coming along really well, and I kind of want to keep moving on her. So I think I might do the steel. I still also have some hair to finish, and I've got a lot of skin to go on, so we'll probably still be working on her, I think. And then on Monday when we come back, it's going to be Dragonborn! It's all Christine all the time. All Christine Van Patten, all the time. Yeah, I like having brought the feathers up, I actually like those. So, yeah, we've got a lot of work to do on Ms. Dragonkin. A lot of. Oh, maybe Reaperland, maybe not. Okay. You can type a full sentence. Are you sure? So yes, I will be on tomorrow on twitch.tv/paintingbig at 3:30 p.m. Central Time ish. That's the plan. That's the plan. All right, everybody. Thank you, Quindy. Thank you for your assistance as always. Fun on the hotel blocks. Good luck to everybody. Remember that Ron is going to be negotiating a new block this afternoon, so hopefully that comes through. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.